So special driving situations. Only practice and experience can make you a good driver. About 40% of highway crashes involve drivers under 25 years old. Wow, that's an important one to remember, okay?
What?
That sounds like a question to ask. 40% of crashes involve drivers under the age of 25.
Okay, I
Okay?
can write that down.
Ah, because you're just going to watch it on here, right?
Yeah.
Most of these crashes are caused by driver inexperience. To be a good driver, you must follow these rules. Give driving your full attention. Don't be distracted while driving. Talking to passengers, adjusting a car stereo, or eating can be dangerous. Drive defensively and keep your eyes on the road ahead of you. By staying alert, you will see hazards and have time to avoid them. Learn to drive in different situations. Practice highway driving, night driving, and handling a motor vehicle in different weather conditions. Know how to handle emergency situations such as skidding or a tire blowout. Know, understand, and obey the rules of the road. We already know all the rules of the road, right? Because that was chapter
Yeah.
4. But now this is talking about special driving situations. Moving emergency vehicle. Always yield to the right, always yield the right of way to fire engines, ambulances, police cars, and other emergency vehicles that are using a siren and or emergency flashing lights. If an emergency vehicle is coming from any direction, you must pull as close as possible to the right side of the road. Stop until the vehicle has passed. Slowly rolling is not acceptable. So you've seen us do that before, right? When a fire truck or a police car is coming, what do we do?
Pull over.
We pull over at the side of the road and stop.
You pull over and stop.
Yep. Check your mirrors and find a safe place to pull over to the right. You should not pull your vehicle to the left or slam on your brakes. Do not stop suddenly. Use your right turn signal. Never stop in the middle of an intersection. Drive through the intersection and pull over as soon as it is safe to do so. After the emergency vehicle has passed, use your left turn signal and make sure the lane is clear. Be sure there are no other emergency vehicles approaching. That's a good one because sometimes a police car goes by or a fire engine goes by, and then what's behind it a little ways back?
Ambulance.
Another one, yeah, another fire
What'd
truck.
they say?
Yeah. So you got to make sure before you pull back out that there's not another one coming too.
So if you pull out, you pull out,
Mhm.
and then after that, the ambulances and fire trucks drive by. You have to stay there until they all pass by.
Right. Yep. So this sounds like a good quiz question too. It is illegal to follow closer than 300 feet behind an emergency vehicle responding to an alarm. So that means you have to stay at least 300 feet away from a police car or a fire truck when it's got its siren on or whatever.
Okay.
You know, when it's got its
300 feet.
Yep, 300 feet. Stationary emergency vehicle. In 2010, there were 269 crashes involving stopped emergency vehicles in Massachusetts. You must slow down and stay alert when you see an emergency response vehicle stopped ahead of you with its emergency lights flashing. This includes fire trucks, police cars, ambulances, and disaster vehicles, usually in support of other emergency vehicles and services. This also includes highway maintenance vehicles or recovery vehicles, tow trucks, etc. With flashing emergency lights, you must be careful for the safety of yourself and others. The move over law requires you to be cautious and reduce your speed to a speed that is reasonable and safe for the road conditions when the approach of a stationary when you approach a stationary emergency vehicle with flashing lights. On a highway with at least 4 lanes, at least 2 in the same direction you are heading, yield the right of way by safely moving over to a lane that is not next to the lane the emergency vehicle is in. In other words, leave an open lane between your vehicle and the stopped emergency vehicle. If moving over is not possible, you must still be cautious and reduce your speed to a reasonable and safe speed. Always be ready to stop if necessary when passing an emergency vehicle. That means only when it's stopped on the side of the road. You always have to be ready to stop. At night, be sure to dim your high beams. If you need help, pull in front of the police cruiser and ask for help. Never stop behind a police cruiser. Do not approach a police officer who is dealing with a stopped motorist. Stand next to your vehicle on the shoulder until the police officer is finished. That's interesting.
What?
So if you need help from a police officer who stopped another vehicle, you don't pull up behind them because then there's headlights shining on them. You pull in front of them, and then you don't go over and talk to them. You wait for them to get done with the person they're dealing with, and when they walk back to their cruiser, then they'll talk to you. So it is illegal to drive by or park within 800 feet of a fire. That sounds like a quiz question. You can't park within 800 feet of a fire. So like if there's a house on fire, you'd have to park at least 800 feet away.
Okay.
Do not drive over an unprotected fire hose unless directed by a firefighter or public safety official. So that means, you know how they use the fire hoses to put out fires?
Yeah.
You can't drive over them. You can't drive over the fire hose with your car. State law requires you to general guidelines if you are stopped by a police officer. Ooh.
What?
What you do if you get pulled over by a cop.
What happens?
Well, you're going to learn right now.
Okay.
State law requires you to pull over to the right side of the road and stop when signaled by a police officer. You must pull over whether the officer is in a police car or on foot. Being pulled over may cause anxiety for both you and the police officer. You may be anxious about getting a ticket or not know why you are being stopped. Police officers rarely know what to expect from a driver or passengers. Because of this, they may be anxious about their own safety. Your actions during a traffic stop may determine the police officer's reaction. Arguing, disregarding the officer's instructions or requests, suggesting that the officer could be more productive by stopping other drivers, or suddenly reaching under the seat or into unseen areas of the passenger compartment are not appropriate. These actions may increase the officer's anxiety, makes the officer be worried.
About what?
If you're like moving around in the car.
Oh.
So he might think you're looking to get a gun or something to shoot him, right?
Yeah.
So they'll talk about what you're supposed to do. Traffic law enforcement is one of the police officer's most important duties. They help to ensure the orderly flow of traffic and prevent deaths and injuries on our public roads. There is an obvious need for constant enforcement. More persons are killed and injured in motor vehicle crashes in the U.S. each year than all other forms of violence combined. That's an interesting. That might be a quiz question. More people are killed in cars than every other way.
Okay. More people are killed in cars than any other way.
Than all other ways together, all other violent ways.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
in 2010, the last year at which figures are available, 32,885 persons, drivers and passengers and pedestrians and bicyclists, were killed. So that sounds like a quiz question too. 32,000 people were killed in accidents.
32,000 people?
Yeah, 32,885. But just remember 32,000. Were killed and over 2,224,000 were injured. So over 2 million people were injured in crashes in the U.S. National Highway Traffic Administration says so. Massachusetts had 347 deaths and 30,311 injuries. Police officers have reason to be worried about their safety during traffic enforcement. Each year in the United States, a number of police officers are killed and thousands more are assaulted. During 2010 alone, 11 police officers were killed and 4,750 others were assaulted during traffic pursuit and stops. To help reduce the levels of anxiety, you should do the following during a traffic stop. So these are the rules. Don't ignore the officer's signal or pretend you didn't see it. Turn on your right turn signal and check your mirrors. Carefully and slowly move your vehicle completely to the right side of the road. If the officer drives by and doesn't stop, return to the travel lane when it is safe. Do not stop your vehicle in an intersection, in front of a driveway, or in a travel lane. If the officer directs you to pull over in a certain place, pull over where directed. Put the car in park if in automatic transmission, or in neutral with the parking brake on if it's standard transmission. Turn off the engine.
What? Turn off the engine of what?
Of your car when the police officer pulls you over. So you pull it over, put it in park, and stop the car. Stay in your vehicle, both you and your passengers. Only get out if you are instructed by the officer. If it is dark, leave your headlights on and put on your interior overhead light. You know, like the light inside the car. So if it's dark, you turn on the light so the police officer can see what's going on in there, right?
You have to turn on the light.
Yep, keep your headlights on and turn on the overhead light so that he can see who's in there. He can see that you're not. Roll down your window as the officer walks toward you. Have your license and registration ready. Give them to the officer when instructed. Do not present them to the officer in a wallet or holder. You are required by law to have your license and registration when operating a vehicle. Keep your hands in plain sight and tell your passengers to do the same. So when you're driving the car, keep your hands on the steering wheel.
Okay.
Even though you're not driving, just keep them there so you can see that your hands are up on the steering wheel.
Okay.
Stay in your vehicle when the officer goes back to the police car. If you have a question, wait until the officer returns. If you find something the officer requested, hold it out the window and wait for the officer to return. Be polite when the officer returns your license and registration. If the officer gives you a ticket, do not argue. Once a citation is issued, the officer is required to file and cannot take it back. You have the right to challenge the citation in court. When the officer tells you you can go, put on your left-hand turn signal, check your mirrors, and return to the travel lane. If you are on a highway, accelerate to a safe speed in the breakdown lane before merging into traffic. Remember that a police officer never knows what to expect when stopping a driver. Don't let your emotions or sudden unexplained movements cause more anxiety. The officer may be more likely to listen to you and less likely to feel threatened if you follow these guidelines. Important, if you believe you are stopped by a police officer because of your race or gender, you may report this by contacting the police department or law enforcement agency of the officer who stopped you. So I think we'll stop here at driving emergencies.